Trip, good to see you again.
Nice to see you
Good
too.
to see you. And I just wanted to for the overview for the audience, right?
Sure.
Just in terms of, if you could just describe Viper Shield and sort of the benefits for future allied operations, basically, and
Sure.
what you're hoping to get for the ALQ 254 and how you
Absolutely.
think it's going to improve things.
So we're really proud of the Viper Shield system. We build it out of our Clifton, New Jersey Electronic Warfare Center of Excellence for
Right.
L3Harris. Viper Shield is an all-digital, software-defined, advanced electronic warfare system for the F-16. We're the baseline system on the Block 70 F-16 in partnership with Lockheed Martin. And we currently have 7 nations that have selected Viper Shield for both the Block 70 as well as retrofits of existing Block 4050 aircraft. Because Viper Shield, it is all digital software defined, but it is also compatible with the entire family of F-16 blocks, which I used to fly. It's the type of system that I wish I would have had when I was flying the F-16. And it really is next generation electronic warfare capability that's important for our allies and partners because the threat that they face is so advanced.
Right.
Not that the threats I faced weren't advanced, but I mean, it really is a new type of an environment that they have to operate in.
Mm-hmm.
And we're proud to be able to deliver that capability to our allies and partners. And we expect more countries, more partners to continue to build the Viper Shield system and to make sure that it's deployed across the world in support of our allies and partners and in the most advanced threat environments that they will have to face.
Right. And I kind of remember something about the production, and I think it was 166, is that right? 166
So
was on the,
I'm
just thinking how many you're turning out right now.
So 6 partner nations were the it's actually 168 systems on order. But we recently were very proud to hear that Poland selected Viper Shield for an additional number of systems. That takes us to over 200 total systems that will be on order in order to really continue to build that foundation and a large base of customers. Additionally to that, advanced capabilities are really part of the architecture for Viper Shield.
Right.
While it's very advanced now and it's DERFM technology, all digital, very capable against modern threats, we architected it from the beginning for future growth. And that's because the threat continues to evolve. And our partners' requirements continue to evolve in reaction to those threats. We're really proud of some of the internal company investments that we've made to make Viper Shield relevant for now and for the future. And as we continue to produce these systems that are already in production in Clifton, New Jersey, the system is in production. The development is fully funded for that system that's in production, but we have additional capabilities that are architected into the system and reflect company investment to continue to advance the state of the art for this system.
Right. Just in terms of the, like you were talking, or your career in the F-16, what, in terms of the EW, you think it's going to give you against, in this contested environment, what are the most significant differences you see? I mean, with the EW from before and now, right?
So there's probably a couple of things that I'll highlight.
I mean, what's the...
Well, for one thing, it's a fully integrated radar warning receiver and electronic countermeasures system.
Yeah.
It has a superior instantaneous bandwidth, which means it is constantly staring across a very wide spectrum bandwidth against threats that are designed to avoid detection and are very agile and digital. And so what that buys you is, instead of having a system that has to timeshare across the spectrum and hope that while you're looking in a particular band that an emitter of an enemy system comes online, you're already staring across the whole thing.
Yeah.
In order to do that, you need a very sensitive RWR that can queue the advanced jamming responses against it and then track those systems as they try to avoid being jammed, right? So I guess to put that into...
I mean, so in terms of frequency hopping and stuff, it does that, or is it like in terms of
it is able to detect these difficult to detect signals from enemy radars and then track them as they try to avoid getting jammed.
To avoid getting jammed,
and that allows the pilot to focus on the task at hand, which is potentially dropping a weapon or shooting something or engaging an air-to-air threat, while the system provides that advanced non-kinetic effect against a number of threats simultaneously.
Yeah. On the Poland contract, I've seen, remember, I could be wrong, but I remember that it talks about Viper Shield in the FMS announcement, right? But it also says or an alternative system. So you wonder, well, could that mean iViews, or do you have that locked down in terms of, because the actual FMS announcement said or an alternative,
right?
So I mean, but is it assured the over 200 now that you are going to have?
We have a commitment from Poland that they have selected us, and it's because we are much faster to field than any alternative from any competitor. We have already gone through a lot of the development that has been already fully funded. And therefore, if you look at capability and cost and schedule, our solution is superior based on the need that they have now. And it's architected for all kinds of capabilities that are very advanced, even beyond the level of advanced capability delivered in the current solution. And so there is a lot of growth potential, and there's some of that is already funded through partners and self-funded by L3Harris to ensure we get the most capable assets out to the field as quickly as possible, years ahead of the competition.
So, but you definitely have the commitment from Poland for Viper Shield, right? So maybe it was just, I'm thinking, well, maybe it was just they had to put that language in there, right?
I think you'll find that's common. On the government announcements to do that. But that does not scare us.
Yeah. Just in terms of the, could you just maybe go over sort of the benefits, why someone would have, let's maybe choose internal system versus the pod? What's the benefit?
Yeah, it's a good question. So if you're talking about a Block 70 F-16, the system is built with Viper Shield as the baseline internal system. It was developed with the Block 70, 72 in mind, and it is already built with those interfaces to work with that platform, to include full interoperability with the APG-83 radar, and it is already integrated off the line. If you're talking about retrofits to existing fleets, well, then there's a few things that you need to consider if you're going to go with an internal system. The benefits of that internal system are potentially you save an external hardpoint, either for less drag, or perhaps you want to put another weapon on that station or another sensor on that station. So that is a benefit. The downside, it could potentially be the cost and the schedule to install retrofits for internal systems. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means there could be some more time, and not all partners have that time or the resources to retrofit their fleet with internal systems, and they may not want to buy one system per aircraft. The benefits to something like the pod, and this is a half-scale model of the Viper Shield pod, couple of benefits that I'll highlight. The outer mold line looks familiar to an existing pod, and that's helpful because it's already been, that outer mold line has already been airworthiness certified through Sea Eagle. There are some additional things we would do because the internal of the pod is different, the different components, they're next generation Viper Shield LRU, but the outer mold line has already gone through that, so it should be an accelerated process. The other benefit to the pod is if you have a mixed fleet of internal and podded Viper Shield solutions, the components inside are exactly the same. The same LRUs that are built into this pod that we've designed are the same ones that go into the internal solution. That's helpful from a sustainment perspective and an economy of scale perspective, as you now have the same interchangeable line replaceable units that you can use in a podded solution or in an internal solution.
But is there any difference between in terms of operations? Is there any? Are both the pod and the internal the same in terms?
They're the same, provided you work through the correct interfaces from the pod to your internal systems.
Gotcha.
That's the piece that depends on. The F-16 is an amazing fighter, and I was lucky to have flown it for so long, for 24 years.
Engine never went out.
Yes, it didn't for me. But every block is different, and every nation that flies the F-16 has a slightly different subsystem, avionics package. And so all of that has to be worked with each block and with each customer or country. There's nothing prohibiting you from doing the same integration with a podded solution that you would with a fully internal solution. Now, in terms of performance, the RWR antennas and the apertures, that's all going to depend on which ones you want to use. But as a container, as a fully integrated pod solution, it has the ability to detect threats and to put down significant jamming power on those threats as a podded solution, which would be as good or in some cases even better than the internal solution.
Right.
What I'll tell you though is one of the benefits to some customers is if you have a podded solution, like I said before, you don't necessarily need to buy one per aircraft. And in that case, you can buy a rotating pool of assets that could then be rotated to your frontline units so that when they go fly combat missions, they have those pods that can be put on before takeoff and after,
Is there any service life expectancy for it in terms of hours?
Digital system.
Right.
And while it reflects a lot of the background and experience that we have doing electronic warfare as a company, it is a software-defined digital system.
Right.
And therefore, the mean time between failure on systems like that are generally better. And it's a lot better. In some cases, the primary LRUs that we're concerned with, I can tell you that is a significantly better mean time between failure as we modeled it and seen in demonstration. We are in flight test. We began that early this year. We're in production for the hardware in a production configuration. And we are going to be fielding this system years ahead of the competition to our allies and partners in an internal configuration, and we believe soon in a podded configuration as well.
Okay.
And I can't tell you who, but we believe that there will be news coming soon of a podded solution customer.
But the 7 countries are all internal right now? Are those?
Yes, those are all internal. Poland is a retrofit
52s,
52s to bring into an internal
but it's still
solution.
going to be internal. Okay.
They're going to be internal.
Right.
But again, there's a benefit to if you did want to have an internal retrofit.
Right.
There is a benefit if you're not able to cover your entire fleet to supplementing that with a podded solution that at least allows you to have that rotating capability to your frontline forces when you need it.
What's the swap on this, or like in terms of like
the weight?
Or just like does it? Because this is half scale, right?
This is half scale.
Okay.
Yep.
So it would be. I mean, I'm just wondering because that's always, as you know, right?
Sure.
I think you might have already talked about it, but does it add significant weight, or is it just not?
What I'll tell you is this is lighter than you would traditionally have, because if you've seen pods like this in the past, there's a lot more hardware and this is less LRUs. In fact, in order to adhere to the weight and balance of previously airworthiness certified pods, we're going to have to add some ballast to it because the new components are so much lighter.
Right. Just in terms of the last thing maybe, or anything you wanted to add, but just in terms of U.S. Air Force potential, right? I mean, they've already sort of said, well, I've used Northrop Grumman, but do you think there's a potential, are you talking with the Air Force that, hey, you might want a Viper Shield? Do you think have they maybe offered that it might be a potential in the future? Or is
all I can say is that we've had some conversations with elements within the Air Force about the capability that a fully funded solution can provide. So we have been fortunate, based on our performance, to have the number of customers and systems on order that we talked about. With that comes a big pool of funding customers to help develop this system. And we believe that there could be a domestic U.S. Air Force solution that leverages a lot of that partner and allied contribution to the program while bringing in their contributions to help make it better in a more efficient way that is already going to be interoperable with our partners.
Oh, cool.
The challenge is, as you've probably seen, 4th generation EW, particularly the F-16 EW, has not been funded in the last several budget cycles. And even in this year's budget request, that particular program has been moved out of a program of record and into a science and technology line. So whether the Air Force decides to prioritize electronic warfare for the F-16 in the future. We of course think it's important, but we understand
And that's what they've said in
there
the
are
past.
competing priorities.
Yeah.
There are always competing priorities. If there is a need for something that is fast to field, that is already in production and is compatible with every F-16 that's in the inventory, then Viper Shield is a lower risk solution, we believe, at least to mitigate for any potential future program that they're considering. Even if they are considering something else, there may be elements of the F-16 fleet, other blocks that are not covered by it. In that case, something like a Viper Shield pod makes a lot of sense. And we particularly look at across the future of the F-16 in the U.S. Air Force and the Air National Guard, where is that iron going to be and who needs it to respond to global threats in a number of AORs.
And the F-16 is sort of the mainstay of the fleet. Right?
Still the backbone fighter fleet, and there's still a need for fourth-gen electronic warfare-equipped F-16s. The question is, how urgent is the need and where are the competing priorities? If there is a desire to prioritize this, we think that a solution like Viper Shield, it's advanced, it's architected for future growth, it's interoperable with the ESA radar like we talked about, and it's already in production. Software-defined capability with a lot of growth in the roadmap, funded by L3Harris IRAD, and supported by a large customer base of international partners.
You might have already said it, but the last thing, when did flight testing, you might have said this already, but when did flight testing start? Are there any next milestones?
I think it's January. It's with the production configuration hardware. I think that's really important because you learn a lot when you have production configured hardware that's coming off of the production line. You're putting that into aircraft and you're testing it and wringing it out on the test range. That's different than potentially having prototype hardware and software that you're trying to put into an aircraft. I think that that's important because it's really hard to make electronic warfare systems. Any company that you talk to at AFA or elsewhere will tell you it's very difficult, and any government customer you talk to will say, yeah, it's always difficult.
It is rocket science, right?
It is rocket science, right. But I think that what's important is we've gotten through a lot of the lion's share of the difficult parts of building a next generation electronic warfare system.
Interesting.
Either into a pod, for path to least resistance, to get it fielded on something that's already been deemed airworthy, at least for the outer mold line. And then a system that was designed to fit in all blocks of the F-16, including D models. And that's something that differentiates us because a lot of our partners, they don't just keep their two-seat models for training. They actually fight with them. And if you don't have a system that is already configured to fit into that D model aircraft, then you're taking a percentage of that fleet off the table for a lot of your allies and partners. We built it to fit within that already, and we're ready to go. We're excited to get it out there. We're working through it, and we're in production, excited to field it to our partners.
I just wonder, will it eventually be known, right? It's just kind of a thought, whether more countries are going to go with the internal or with the pod. I mean, you could sit, like you're saying, you see benefits of both, but if they want to hang a weapon, right, then I don't. What do you? Is there any feeling, insights you have on which one might be, or is it?
I mean, look, objectively, if you have the time and you can afford to do it, I think an internal solution that's fully integrated is great. But if you're faced with that or nothing, and you can't. And your schedule or your budget does not allow for that.
Then you need the pod.
Well, then a pod is a really good solution, and again, that applies to not just international partners. It applies to the domestic United States Air Force as well. We believe, depending on your choices and your priorities, there are a lot of options out there. I want to make sure that everyone who thinks about Viper Shield understands that the future growth capability and the software-defined nature of this system really does not restrict you in any way against the most advanced capabilities that are out there. And we're putting our company investment behind that. We're working with our partners, and some of them are funding that as well. We're working very closely with Lockheed Martin as partners to make sure that we deliver the most state-of-the-art, cutting-edge, next-gen advanced EW capability to our allies, partners, and hopefully down the road, if the priorities support that, to the United States Air Force. That still holds a special place in my heart.
It should. Oh, I appreciate it. We'll see. I'll definitely see you again.
All right.
I'll see you around.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right.